record button now. And so this is our annual meeting for Alive. And there will be plenty of time for questions. If you want to put them in the chat box, I'll be monitoring that. And if it's appropriate to answer the question at that time, great. I will ask Jason the question so he can respond. But if not, we'll save all those until the end. We're very glad to have you all here today. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jason Frenzel. He has been a longtime member of Alive, and he will be our incoming president. And he is from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and he works at a local watershed council, and all around great guy. So, Jason, please take it away.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, and welcome everybody. I presume we'll have a few more folks trickling in, but our annual meeting is, as many small nonprofits, our annual meeting is just a review of the past year and let me see if I can forward the slide. There we go. So it's typically just a review of the past year and a discussion of our upcoming goals, introduction later in the meeting of our 2017 leadership team, because we had some people terming out on the board this year. So we have pretty significant change in the leadership team, but people that have been around for a long time. We also, as you may have noticed in the notice for the board elections, is we had a revamp of the bylaws, which Gretchen, our contractual organizational manager, and I initiated, and the board went through over the last few months, most of which was simply just outdated material, but we'll go through that in a little bit. And as Gretchen noted, if you have any questions, just type them into the chat box and she'll be going through that with us. We will have time for question and answer at the end. And if you have questions as we go, toss those into the chat box and we'll bring those up. I'm just going to keep the volume muted on all of the attendees just to keep things simple. I don't see Beth yet. Okay, so Beth, our outgoing. So this was our leadership team this past year. Beth Whitmer was our president, and she's outgoing as of January 1 or December 30. I'll be the president this coming year. Our secretary for quite some time was Catherine Hampton. Treasurer was Sarah, and Beth's predecessor as president was Kathy Cahill, who's not on the board. Oh, I put that information in the wrong place. So the top half of the board members are from 2016. The bottom three are additions as of January 1 upcoming. I put Gretchen, Carmine, and Megan in the wrong slide. So I might just jump back to that later. So all wonderful people, a little bit weighted heavily over to the California area, but from all around the country.
And Jason, this is Gretchen. I proofed this, and I'm sorry I missed that too. Terry Jean Conlon's not on there, from Wisconsin.
Oh shoot! I'm so sorry, Terry Jean. I've been rushing around doing things, and so this PowerPoint was definitely.
Or Megan Vixie.
Oh jeez, I am so bad.
Or Jared.
Or Emily as well.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's just say that this
okay, I will fix those.
Yeah, might have been more reflective of the 2015 leadership team.
Yeah, let me capture those, and I will attempt to put those on in a minute. Oh, I know I typed Emily in, so that must be. I must have updated it in two places. So, okay. So the top 3/4 of the board members were from early 2016. Moving on to some of our accomplishments this year. Obviously, a year or so ago, we hired Gretchen on to be our organizational manager, and that has drastically improved our capacity. We're getting a lot more done. As she was noting before the beginning of the webinar, Gretchen travels around the country in her home on wheels with her husband, and has had the opportunity to go to all sorts of local Dovias, go to lots of regional meetings on behalf of Alive, and tie that into her tours of the U.S. So that opportunity that presented itself last year was a fabulous addition and expansion of our organization, and we are greatly appreciative of all of your work, Gretchen. And a number of the points that are below are Gretchen's work and/or a combination between a couple board members and Gretchen's work as a paid contractor. Once again, for the second year, we had our hybrid conference with Better Impact, which was this year was presented in person in Florida and then broadcast nationally on 2 different days out to over 300 participants, slated as a slate fundraiser for us. It is a great way for us to get national presentations out to people on a local level. For those who have a Dovia or an organization that's able to bring together a small group of people to watch that conference. Third point, we rebranded a bit, changed up our logo significantly, which you can see in the bottom. It was the old logo was beautiful at a certain time in the past, and so we're excited to have a new branding that's a little bit more fun and playful and reflects some of our value sets a little bit differently as the organization evolves. Fourth point, again, with Gretchen's help and Gretchen's facilitation of our board members, we drastically upgraded the number of webinars and seminars that we've offered. Some of them are just for members, and some of them are to the general public also, again, as a slight fundraiser. But we were well below half of that number for the last handful of years, even on good years. So that has been a real boon to the organization, to our members, and to our ability to help through professional development of our membership. We had, for those of you who were able to be in Detroit for the NCVS conference, our board gets together at that time, or at the NCVS conference most years. It was an informal retreat this year based on the number of people that were there, but a great time for those of us living in multiple different cities to be able to get together and talk in person and work through more details. If you've ever been on a national board or a national planning committee, it definitely is an added constraint to the organization to be able to not really see each other or get to know each other as personally if we're not in the same place. So that get together in Detroit was once again very valuable to us. We had a member reception again in Detroit, not at the Okra Saloon, that was in Houston, but we offer a reception for our members and the people who are interested in Better Impact as a software. It's a great way for all of the board and the members to mix and get to know each other a little bit, and we often offer some deals and some door prizes, which are fun and lovely. So it's a good time if you're making it out to Seattle at NCVS. We'll be planning on doing that again, so hopefully you can join us. As I mentioned earlier, Gretchen was able to get out to a lot of Dovias this year. She and I and many on the board have some plans to help roll out some assistance programs for Dovias that are small, that are new, cross-pollinating the strengths of different Dovias. To that end, Gretchen was able to get out to a bunch of different places in the country because of her travels and meet with numerous Dovias on our behalf, which has been great. And then also to that end, coming in 2017, we have brought on in 2016 and one in 2017 some folks with really strong Dovias. So Megan Vixie came on board in 2016 from California, and she had played a leadership role in their Dovia, and that should service us well to being able to help smaller Dovias or Dovias that are in isolated locations. And then we are excited to have the executive director of the Minnesota Association of Volunteer Administrators join our board this coming January through our election this year. So that's exciting and great. Second to last point, we are still distinctly in the black. Hiring Gretchen has put a bit of a tightening on our budget, but we've been negotiating that space as we grow, as any small organization needs to. But we're still negotiating that process of what our small and changing organization is going to do. So look forward to seeing that evolution over the next few years also. And lastly, over the last few months, Gretchen helped facilitate all of this, the board members identifying our goals for 2017. We'll talk about the end of this presentation. Looks like some people may be having trouble hearing or getting on the call. If that is true, you could put it into the chat box, or I don't have Gretchen's email. Let me see if I can pull up Gretchen's email and see if I can voice it to those who are having trouble. I just got a couple texts that some people are having trouble getting.
Thank you. I'm going to put you can email me at manager@volunteeralive.org. I'll put that in the chat box. But you can also text me at 503-343-0852. I've got my cell phone open as well.
Cool. Thank you so much. So those are our big points of accomplishment in 2016. Again, as I stated throughout, many of those things are new to us, new expansions because of bringing Gretchen on this year, as well as having some new and lively individuals on the board, which has been great. So if you have any questions about those points, please feel free to check those into the chat box. And Gretchen and I will aim to answer questions. But great expansion and improvements each year, including this year. So just some background structure work. So we're constantly building our committees and revamping them internally. That is sort of an ongoing place from my vantage point as a youngish organization. That's going to be a continual process, at least for a few more years. Some committees based on their leadership, the individuals on the board that are the leaders of those committees, some years they're really strong and some years less so, and some years they're redefining, and those things are constantly happening, and I consider that the signs of a healthy, struggling to make improvements young organization. We've been working similarly. We've been working to get more marketing out in general, but specifically this past year to Dovias especially. Gretchen is also working on trying to, or has prioritized getting out to and assisting individuals who don't have Dovias near them, which we are also uniquely poised to do to help. So that's interesting and exciting, daunting, and diverse. As I mentioned earlier, the membership initiatives, the webinars have been going great. Dana Litwin and I, Dana Litwin mostly with a little bit of assistance from me, started a mentorship program this year, which has had some successes. We're going to have another reevaluation of that in the coming months after the first set of mentorships were set up. We evaluated it and it seemed like everything was going well. With a small handful, a dozen or so mentorship relationships started. So as we move forward in the coming years, we're going to evaluate how successful that is, how much structure we may want to add to that mentorship relationships between experienced volunteer managers and newer folks, and if we are the right organization or if that's a meaningful addition to our work and what we offer to our members. As I noted, we went to NCVS in Detroit, had the hybrid conference, and we have roughly monthly newsletters that go out highlighting a member or a board member, some news of the industry, some interesting changes in the organization or needs for Alive. You should be getting those as members. If you're not getting those newsletters, please make sure to email Gretchen or myself. Gretchen's email address is in the chat box right now, but you should have received roughly 13 of those in 2016.
Oh, it would have been 6, and number 7 is coming out tomorrow.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, every other month. So these were our plans for 2016, and expanding our membership, which happened. We had some success on those fronts, not as much as we had hoped, in expanding our membership base, with the plans to reach out and work more with local Dovias, as I've noted a few times. I think that's really going to be a potential expansion for our organization and the membership numbers. Not that expansion is always the best thing, but that we've identified that we're certainly not representing enough of the folks in the industry throughout the year. Other things that we accomplished or our other plans from 2016, we aimed to increase our or diversify our growth, our financials. We had a hybrid conference. We are doing Beth, our outgoing president, is working on a financial appeal to our members to see most membership organizations do year-end financial appeals. So we're going to see how that works. And then, as noted multiple times already, we've had a suite of more webinars that were all some degree financial income for us. So diversifying our finances has been an important step in our growth. And we've had mild success on most or all of those. Outreach and partnerships for 2016. Again, I think I've touched on pretty much all of these already in the previous slide. So I want to go over to the bylaw review. So if you have any questions about 2016's accomplishments and goals, feel free to text those in. And I'll go over to that document right now. Let me find that. If someone could text in whether my font size is big enough.
Yeah, I would go ahead and make that full screen, Jason, just for folks, make it easier to read. Yeah, that looks better. And I know that Shirley Conger had wanted to have some comments about the bylaws. So Shirley, I'm going to unmute you. And
Shirley, thank you. Shirley, did you have comments about a specific section or the bylaws in general?
A little of both.
Okay, could you?
I don't know if you want me to do it before you go over it, or if you want to go over it explain some of the reasoning, and then I can do it at the end. Either one is fine with me.
Well, let's have your comments at the end, just because then I don't know that everyone has had a chance to review the bylaws and the change. So does that sound reasonable to you?
Absolutely.
Okay, superb. Thank you. So section 1, we changed. There was some inconsistency in the document using the word association and organization, and so or corporation. I'm sorry. So we changed all the places where it referenced the organization using a different word and turned it to association. This is sort of superfluous, but it was confusing. It was at least confusing. Moving down a little bit. I'll try to move through these reasonably quickly, but not too fast, so you can have a chance to just glance at them. Most of the bylaws are still the same as they were before. So the change is what I'm going to highlight, but if you have any thoughts or questions about the articles or the sections as they exist, that's completely reasonable also. Here in Article 2, Section 1, there was a statement about voting. We removed that because voting is explicitly addressed in a section later on in the document. So having materials stated multiple times is not necessarily a best practice in bylaws. In Section 2, we had an associate membership, which we effectively haven't used for an extended period of time, and we haven't been utilizing in any way. So we haven't been selling that membership, so we removed it. It effectively isn't something we're using. Moving down. Whoa, what just happened? So we'll keep moving down. Let's skip a number of sections where we didn't do any editing. But you can take a quick look through. So these are membership options and some of their benefits. The section on the dues, we didn't change that at all. Section 4, the rights remain the same. Resignation and termination also stayed the same. Some other membership categories that we have the availability to add. Here under organizational structure, under section 1, we just changed some language here to clean it up. It wasn't as clear as we wanted to, so the intent of the paragraph is exactly the same. Under allied organizations, we changed the word may to shall, which is slightly substantive. Under Article 4, I don't think we have any changes under Article 4. Let me just go through that a little bit. So this is just how all of our meetings are structured, giving people access, membership access to the board and to the meetings, notice, how the meetings are structured. Under Article 5, the Board of Directors, we changed a number of things, mostly because they were slightly out of date. We changed the board from a minimum of 13 to a minimum of 11 members. It has on occasion, some years, been challenging for us to keep the minimum of 13. So we just updated that. Pretty much everybody from the last 2 years was in agreement that that number could be lower, could be offer us more opportunity to ensure that the board is full, which is critical. Terms, The first sentence was simply reworded for simplicity's sake. Notice, we didn't change these things. Under section 5, we added the last sentence, which states any person nominated prior consent to nominating an election. All officers may serve up to 2 one-year terms. So it was confusing to some that the officers, the president, the secretary, the vice presidents could be in that position for 1 year or only 1 year or a mandatory of. So we added that for clarification's sake because a number of us realized that if the president or especially the secretary or the treasurer stuck around in that position for multiple years, it makes everything work a lot more smoothly. Down in section 7, we had some changes to paragraph 2. We added that the president oversees the Human Resource Policy Committee. That wasn't clear who oversaw that one. Where's our next one? Down here in board vacancies under section 8. I think is our next change. Yeah. Sorry for the delay there. So here we added the statement, the clarification that people can self-nominate for board vacancies. So we added a section there where when we have a vacancy, we'll put it out to the membership if anybody wants to be considered for a nomination process as opposed to a voting process if the board is low on members. Under board resignation here, it had stated that the number of missed meetings had to be consecutive, which I didn't think was ideal because if we have a board member that misses every other meeting, that's not full participation. So we cleaned that up a little bit. Couple more articles down here in committee formation. We removed a bunch of material about the specific standing boards, which was in those sections above. Again, it was just duplicative information, which makes the bylaws slightly confusing. These are all the same. Basically, the rights and duties of different committees, nearly all the same as they were before. Here under executive director, we added the idea of contractual work because that actually describes Gretchen's current situation. So we had hired a manager in a way that wasn't specified in this article or in the bylaws. So we added that in case we want to hire or contract out an executive director, which would be an incremental step from Gretchen's current situation. We have not broached that subject. Whether or not we're going to do that, it's just offering ourselves the opportunity to do that in the future. Under budget here, section 2, we removed, there was a 90-day clause for the review, and we removed that. As a small organization, we just don't find ourselves with the capacity to meet super strict deadlines on a regular basis. So we removed that clause. And lastly, under certification, we just clean up the wording here. Those were all the changes and a really brief overview of the bylaws. Hopefully we don't need to touch them again after agreeing today to these changes and whatever Shirley or whomever else has comments. So Shirley, what were your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I'd like to introduce myself so that you'll know where I'm from.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I was on the original founding board with Gretchen and Sarah, so I go back that far. I chaired the Human Resources and Policy Committee while I was on the board and for a couple of years after that. So that's kind of my background. Many of the changes are just housekeeping, but I did notice three things. First of all, there is no copy of the existing bylaws which were approved in 2010 on our website. So there's no way to go back and really see what the difference is unless you happen to have a copy of that. Because I was on the committee that very carefully was sure that it was the right copy, I did have a copy, and so I could go back and look at that. But I do think that the bylaws do need to be on the website so that any member can look at them at any time.
That is a brilliant point. We will certainly make that happen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shirley. And I'll say that they are on the members only side of the website under the file archive, but I can easily move that to the front so people can view that easily.
No, it wasn't. I looked under the members only and I could not find it. It's under what, Gretchen?
It should be in the file archive under, I think, board documents and reports. But I'll definitely put that on the to-do list to move it to the front.
Yeah, because I did play with it for quite a while trying to find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So our apologies for that, Shirley.
That's fine. But beyond that, I understand the taking away of associate memberships because we probably don't have those. But you've also taken away my purpose to be a member, because what the new bylaws say is that you must be currently active in managing volunteers. I am retired. I continue to be very active with the leadership part of Ardovia, and I began and facilitate a coalition on volunteership for this whole area, but I don't fit the category to be eligible to be a member anymore.
Right. That is a great point. And that's what associate member did, didn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
So, I mean, I've been listed as an individual simply because I haven't been changed over, but I actually have been an associate member since I retired.
Right.
So that's one problem that I see.
Yeah.
The second major, and I know it said they were minor changes, but the major change is the committee structure. Doing away with the standing committees is doing away with two things. The original committee structure was set up because they wanted to involve many more people in the leadership of the association. And they were also set up on the other side as kind of the checks and balances, which we've been hearing a lot about lately.
Yep.
And the main job of the policy, well, the Human Resource and Policy Committee, was to be sure that policies did not contradict each other. They basically became the legal arm And the amount of research that was done by my committee members and the amount of meetings that we had far exceed what a president who is running the whole organization should be chairing. So those points I just feel are very important. If we do away with standing committees, then every check and balance that we have becomes well, I lost my train of thought there. It becomes an ad hoc committee, which the board can do away with at any point. And the board, with the new numbers of 11, only have to have 6 at a board meeting, and the majority would be 4. And so 4 people can determine whether we do away with a standing committee or with any ad hoc committee, and basically do away with that checks and balances. I don't think that's what. That's my thoughts on the whole thing.
No, those are good points. Yeah, and we want a durable structure, certainly, and your points are well founded. And I apologize that history was lost to me. So I greatly appreciate your thoughts and feedback on that. And that's exactly why we have this meeting, isn't it?
I do think you're planning to meet or to vote on this today, but according to our current bylaws, we don't have a quorum to vote on them.
Yeah, it appears that we missed quorum today, so. But you have some substantive feedback that I think we should take into account anyway. And I don't think that's necessarily done best here in this meeting.
And
I just wanted to.
Yeah, and this is Gretchen. And Jason, if you just scroll up to Article 10, just scroll up a little bit on your screen there. It does say that, let's see, what the next step should be. It sounds like, Shirley, it would be great if you would put these things in writing so the board can review. It's that last sentence.
Well, it says that it has to be. Okay, first of all, it says the bylaws may be amended by a 2/3 majority of the membership attending an annual meeting.
Right.
Well, so it will have to be at an annual meeting.
Right. Yep.
Unless there's nothing there that says you can call a special meeting.
Right. It does not state that a special meeting would allow for that opportunity, which is fine. These, in my book, these were the updates that we have at this point were out of date with no particular timeliness to the changes. It was simply that Gretchen and I had a few extra hours here and there to work on this. Shirley, do you think you could send those to us in written format, specifically? Because I took some notes while you were talking, but I want to make sure that we get all of your points really specifically. And then over the next few months, a couple of the board members could take a crack at that and get your review. Due to the timeliness issue, as one of the 2 spearheads for this, I don't feel a need to push this forward any faster than it needs to be. We certainly have plenty of other work to do in the coming year. So unless Gretchen or Jordan, Gretchen or Shirley or any of the other board members around the call have a serious concern about this proposal, I would move setting these bylaw changes to next year and giving us a few months to significantly change them over the next few months.
I'll be happy to help with that, and it'll take me a little while to write it down.
Of course, and yeah,
I do better.
now, so. Yes.
I think the point of order is that Shirley should make that proposal, and then we need a
Yep.
second. And
Oh, I can do that. You want me to move that the bylaw amendments be tabled until the next annual meeting?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying, Gretchen?
right. Well, as president, Jason can't make the motion, but a member could.
I would make that motion, yes.
Okay.
Can we get someone to text in a second to that motion, please?
Okay, and Brian seconded.
Cool. Thank you.
So then
All those
Jason,
in favor?
call for discussion, and then a vote.
A call for discussion. I'm sorry. Yes. Is there any discussion? Gretchen, would you open up folks' ability to talk?
Yes.
I'm just worried that somebody's going to be typing for too long, and the delay might frustrate this process.
Okay, everybody that has a microphone, I've turned them all back on.
If anybody has any discussion on this matter, tabling based on Shirley's thoughts for a year and working on her what seem like friendly changes for the next few months. Okay. Can I get folks to text in via the chat? All those in favor say aye or yes. And are there any that are opposed? It appears that
Looks like we are anonymous.
unanimous.
I
Yeah,
love that word.
fabulous. Great. Thank you so much, Shirley, for your thoughtfulness and your attention to that and bringing the historical context. I greatly appreciate those.
Just want to see the organization grow.
I really, really appreciate it and honor your time in our past and your continuation in supporting those of us who are newer. Okay, I'm going to move on from the bylaws to our next portion of our agenda, which is very small. Just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we got a new mailing address. Our finance folks have moved. Our finance person has changed, and so our mailing address is more closely associated with that person. And we'll talk about our board in a little bit, but just if you want to write it down, it's updated on our website, I believe. So just grab that. Our new. Okay, who did I miss? This is our 2017 leadership team. I'm the president. Dana Litwin is our elect. Jeannie is our secretary. Brian Probst, who's on the call, is our new treasurer. And Beth, of course, is now our past president.
And Jason, I'm sorry I missed this.
Terry Jean,
you sent this to
Paul
me
is gone.
also. The board members, this is not correct.
No.
Paula Pratt is not on the board. Catherine is terming out of the board. He's going to fix it right now. You could.
Look at that.
Yeah, there you go. Catherine has served 6 years as secretary, I think. Emily, that's a typo in her name. And then we're adding Gretchen, Carmeet, and Megan to our board.
Oh, you know what I'm going to do? Watch this. See, I got half. I did half of it in each slide. That's what.
Yeah. But then don't forget Terry Jean. Well, once you cut that, you can paste that into the next one. Oh, you got Terry Jean there.
Yeah. And the folks on the bottom there are our new incoming board members for 2017.
I can report that the board members were elected as per our bylaws. And so as of January 1st, they will become official members of the board. And we have board orientation scheduled for Megan, Gretchen, and Carmit next week. And really looking forward to having you part of the board. And one thing I'm really excited about is that all of these folks will bring us representation where we have not had it in the past few years in terms of geographical representation. Gretchen is from Texas, Carmit is from Minnesota, and Megan is from Illinois. So we've got the Midwest and the central Southwest, I think, regions covered, which is very important. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah.
And sadly losing the mountain and the upper west.
Yes.
Yep. It has been, and maybe Shirley, you and I can talk offline about this, with Dana Litwin, who's going to be heading up board development in the coming year, but we've really struggled to keep that representation widespread. And we've tried a number of measures to try to get that geographic distribution continually. It has been a struggle that we're happy to struggle with, but we have not succeeded in the few years that I've been on the board. So welcome, Gretchen, Carmit, and Megan. Really excited to have you here. It is fabulous. I've worked with Carmit a bit already, and so I'm excited to have you come on board. I'm excited to get to know Gretchen and Megan also.
And we'll be putting more information about our new members, plus recognition about our outgoing board members in our first issue of our 2017 newsletter.
Yeah, that is wonderful. Thank you. Do we have any of our outgoing members on the call today? I don't think so.
No, we don't, unfortunately.
Many of them were outgoing. Were drastically outgoing, changing significant things in their lives. So we needed to replace them very quickly, unfortunately. But everybody's moving on to wonderful things. I wanted to go through our goals for 2017. They're distinctly lofty. I believe we will make great strides on them all. I hope we will accomplish some of them. I don't know that we will accomplish all of them, just because there's a lot. So we've associated them with personnel. So the bylaws, going to change the bylaws at the end of the year. We will, so this is for the president, making sure that all of our board is filled, has been a success that Gretchen and I accomplished over the last few months. Great new and existing folks. Emily comes back to us after hiatus for a year or two, which is great. But those you can see are all of our vice presidents of fill out our that we have here, who's fill out the remainder of the executive committee. So, again, Gretchen and I have identified that the partnerships that we have with some of the for-profit companies to deliver services or discounts has been, as well as some nonprofits, has been really exceptionally useful to our membership. So we're going to be working to increase those and be a bit more strategic as we build our membership and build our capacity. We're going to need to be a little bit more specific in outreaching and finding partnerships that offer us the strengths that we need to grow into. It will also be my role and the executive committee's role to manage our contracted duties, including some website services and especially Gretchen's time. our president-elect, Dana, is in charge of board development. So just making sure we're onboarding and bringing people into the process and engaging that leadership ladder. We've identified diversity, as we talked about a moment ago, geographically, but also different perspectives regarding areas of interest and types of work. Board orientations that Gretchen already mentioned are scheduled for next week. Jeannie is our new incoming secretary. So we're, just so folks know, it looks like, for those of you who know, we have been using Wigio as our internal storage location. Wigio is changing some of their policies around their free service. So we'll be moving our storage location to Google Documents, most likely. And Jeannie will be in charge of making sure those are continued to stay up to date. Brian has been getting on board with our new treasurer. We have some increased development, as I mentioned early on in the presentation, both because we want to increase our capacity, our ability, and we'd like to ensure that Gretchen stays with us for an extended period of time. So those are all funding needs we hope to keep growing towards. Obviously, we want to keep a balanced or slightly positive budget. We want to keep ourselves efficient and make sure our expenses aren't more than they need to be. We're working on a couple measures in that around our web service, most especially, but also looking at all of our expenses on at least yearly, if not a couple times a year, and making sure that we're being as efficient with all of our money as possible. And then Brian arranges for yearly audit or review of the finances. Terry Jean is our new membership committee chair or vice president. So we have, as I noted earlier, we're constantly looking at increasing our membership. Again, not because more is always better, but because we know that we're not reaching as many folks who could benefit from our association as possible. I've talked extensively about Dovias, so I won't touch on that. We have a couple requests to look into agency membership, so we'll be talking about that over the next year. Reviewing our just member benefits in general, and our upkeep of our database, which is ongoing work of that committee. Emily is revamping, bringing back to life our programs committee, which was on hiatus for a little bit. So we had our Alive Academy. We're going to be doing that. Our hybrid conference, which I mentioned at length. This last few, I am not as familiar with because I was not at this meeting. So looks like Emily was excited. I remember having this conversation with her about bringing back some goals that we had a few years ago about standards and job classification that came on our radar a couple years ago, and then just increasing our overall appeal nationally. Megan is joining, or is going to be vice president of marketing. This meeting I also missed, so Gretchen or Megan, if you have any additions to this conversation, I would welcome those. But also just increasing our exposure and the consistency of our marketing presence, both to our existing members and then at events and to the general, to our peers throughout the country. So
And
set of goals.
Megan and
Is that
Terry Jean, I've unmuted both of you. If you just wanted to give any, input on this or answer any questions that people might have. And Jason, just wanted to let you know we're coming up to being on the hour. We certainly can go over, but just to value people's time.
And we're very close to the end at this point.
Super. Okay.
Megan, Terry, Jean, any comments? I was just trying to breeze through that stuff as quickly as possible, but if you have any additions, I'd like to have you on.
This is Megan. Not at this time. I think really just for marketing, it's really making sure that our members know about, what offerings or trainings or roundtables or anything that would be helpful to them. We really want to make sure we're getting them the information in the way that they would want to receive it. So if anyone has any suggestions or recommendations, please let me know. I'll go ahead and put my information in the chat box if you want to contact me. But, we really just want to, one, grow our membership and really get that information out there, as well as keep our members informed as much as possible. So this is a good service for you. So just let me know if you have any recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Okay. So that brings us to the end of our PowerPoint and the end of the presentation that I put together. Do we have any questions or added comments? Oops.
And I'll go ahead and unmute everybody just to make it easier.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Hey, this is Megan Holland, and I wondered if any of the groups could, or how the new board members would be assigned to any of the committees.
Oh, great question, Megan. We'll discuss that at orientation next week. And certainly be thinking when you look at these goals, and I will send each of you a copy of this so you can look at these goals and see what speaks to you of where you might like to be aligned.
At this point, most of the committees could comfortably take on another person or two. Dana is actually going to be looking into trying to recruit general members into a couple of the committees also. So I think the world's your oyster at this point, but yeah, review those materials, get a sense for what's going to play to your strengths or interests the best. Other questions?
Second question, Megan Holland again. Is there a list of the email addresses for the board members so that we can easily contact each other?
Yes, and I will also be telling you more about that at orientation.
One of the things I'd like to do is we move over to, highly likely move over to Google for our file storage, is create a Google email distribution list also to make that more simple so that our secretary can manage that list because we do routinely get people that are on the board that change jobs. That happens once or twice a year, right? So we'll get email addresses that change. So if we have one person managing that, that'll help a lot. But that we haven't broached that subject, but yes, that's one gets you the list. Other questions? I have a question. My first real adult job was at a small nonprofit where the annual meeting was exceptionally boring. And so if anyone has any ideas on how to make our annual meeting more fun and lively, I would love to hear from you offline. Send me an email about ideas to make this more fun, engaging, and yet still efficient and quick. I struggle with it, and I always tend to do the bare minimum, so I apologize for those of you who got bored of listening to my talk.
Next year, we'll include a shiny video. How's that?
Great. Okay. Any other questions? Superb. Superb. Gretchen, I don't remember. Do we need to vote on the closure of the meeting, or is it just finished?
Yeah, I think you can just call the meeting is officially ended, and that's good. And I marked down the time.
Fabulous. Unless anyone, I'll give everyone another 30 seconds or 12 seconds as the case may be.
Yep.
Voice concerns, voice questions.
Everyone's mic is open, or you could certainly put it in the chat box. And if there's something brilliant that you wanted to say or were trying to say, you can always email that to myself or Jason afterwards too. I'll be stopping the recording in just a moment, and like I said in tomorrow's newsletter, there'll be directions on how to access the recording, and you could certainly listen to at your leisure or pass along to your friends. And we'll have highlights in the newsletter as well as what we talked about at the meeting in tomorrow's newsletter.
Again, I really appreciate our new executive committee members stepping up into those roles. Thank you all very much. I also thank those board members who stepped up in 2016 onto the board. A couple of you, thank you very much. And our new board members, again, greatly appreciate you joining us. It will be, I look forward to getting to know all of you a little bit better this coming year. And with that, I think we'll call this meeting over at 3:02 Eastern. Thanks, everybody. Have a lovely week. And please keep in touch.
Thanks, everybody. Jason, good job. It's over. Yay. I will go ahead and stop the recording.
Yeah. So the